Okie pokey weirdos, I'm Rev, and let's talk about my last Good Omens video. Firstly, my previous Good Omens video was the first video on my channel to get such a large number of likes, comments, and new subscribers, so I want to give a big hi there, hello, and welcome for those of you who are new to this circus of madness. Now let's get down to the extended cut of my previous video. Originally, my last Good Omens video was meant to be a quick summary of my thoughts, largely being an explanation of how I worked through my PTSD-driven reaction to the Good Omens kiss. I knew I wanted to elaborate on this more in another video, so here is that video. Also, there was some confusion mentioned in the comments on why I took the stance that I did, so I will also be acknowledging and expanding on those points as well. And I do like to cite my sources, so yes, I will be putting some people's comments up in my video, as long as I do not sense any hate energy wafting off of them. While watching this scene, specifically the kiss, I ended up taking Az's side because he was the most fearful, in the form that I most commonly feel fear, within that moment. By design, you're supposed to side with Crowley in the argument. I personally side with Crowley about 90% of the time throughout the series because he's much more my personality, as well as due to my haircut, as well as my masculine dressing style. A lot of people joke about me being very similar to Crowley. The most common rebuttal for the perspective I took in the previous video was often a reiteration of Neil Gaiman's Tumblr post, and thank you to this commenter for bringing this to my attention because I did not know he posts this. Because I do not Tumblr. I live under a rock. So here it goes. The kiss is not a prelude to something sexual, but rather a desperate attempt to communicate something that words did not seem to have been able to, which is, I love you, let's be, and us. Some version of this perspective came up again and again in the comments, and it's because that was by design. This perspective is more so Crowley's. In this scene, the dude is kissing Aziraphale going, "God damn it, Angel, please stop being stupid and accept that I love you. Also, return my feelings because you're really irritating me right now." However, this brings me to the concept of death of the author. I will cite the original paper of the concept in the description, as well as an analysis on that paper, but for a quick and easy to digest summary, thankfully my brother Sable was so very helpful in this research and wrote up a little summary for us here. It goes as follows. The basic summary of the death of the author paper is that once the work is published, the author no longer has full control of its meaning. Its interpretation is now up to the audience. Different people and different groups of people will end up interpreting the work in ways that the author may not have originally intended, but those interpretations are no less valid as they will be based on those people's lived experiences. Their alternate interpretations of the work help us to not just understand the person presenting it, but help us to grasp a deeper meaning of the work itself and how we interact with it when we read or watch it. Therefore, in this moment, my little piglet, or fear, whichever embodiment of anxiety you would like to impose upon this situation, latched onto Aziraphale's discomfort in the argument. So much could have been fixed with the situation if Aziraphale and Crowley had just sat down and talked it out in some sort of healthy conversation to work out what was going on. The problem is neither of them had their listening ears turned on, and also this was created for the drama of the show to bring us to the next season, as well as having us anxiously await the next season. I.e., we are all creating more and more content about this scene on every single platform because we are all suffering. In short, we are looking at Crowley trying to express his emotional/romantic feelings for Aziraphale, which is very difficult for him to do, obviously, because this dude is nearly in tears, and then we have Aziraphale being unbelievably excited about what can be seen as either essentially a promotion from a job that he had been very fired from, and or a toxic family calling him back saying that they apologize when we all know that they are only letting him back in because they want something from him. Crowley even points out the whole toxic family dynamic.
We don't need heaven, we don't need hell, they're toxic.
And Aziraphale is not listening because he is so unbelievably wholesome and innocent that he believes that these people can change. That innocence of Aziraphale's also extends into his relationship with Crowley. The confusion that I saw most often was that of why I chose lust being important in this scene, because Crowley and Aziraphale's bond is so innocently depicted in the show. So, was this kiss lustful? No! Please ignore all the fanfiction on my computer, you saw none of that! Let's dig a little deeper than some of my favorite fan art, shall we? We see these two have an amazing friendship, and it's very heartwarming. The frustrations come in when these gay vibes are sprinkled throughout. Again, it's by design so that we have the back and forth inside our heads of, are they friends or are they boyfriends?
Both is good.
For me personally, I wasn't even shipping them at the start of the show. I honestly started watching the series for the fanfiction, and usually I try to split up the universe versions of the characters between their various fanfiction universes and their OG media. Completely different universes, per author or creator, do not mix them. I've been pretty successful in this with media like Supernatural, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek, Sherlock, and so on, where some of the fanfiction is way out there and enjoyable, but it does not make all that much sense in the original content. Although, I could start seeing these fanfictions seeping into the story of the Good Omens episodes. It made too much sense for these two to get together with all the little breadcrumbs we were being given. Especially since season 2 is technically fanfiction because Neil Gaiman never even wrote this part of the story. We get Michael Sheen being able to make heart emoji eyes without a second thought. We also have David Tennant deadass staring at Michael every chance he gets. But the scene that really got me to ship them in the show was Az saying,
"You go too fast for me, Crowley."
And that was the moment that I said, oh gosh, even the show ships them now. Okay, we're done for. The whole fandom will now collapse into a puddle of, this is actually gay, and I will die on this hill.
Flint?
Join me.
Whoa!
What are you waiting for?
Nothing!
Even with that, their relationship still continues to be unbelievably innocent. We're looking at examples like Az working so hard to pull a ball together, and then watching him work up the courage to ask Crowley to dance. And then he could have taken his arm or shoulder to guide Crowley out onto the dance floor, but no. He so adorably and excitedly takes hold of Crowley's hand and scampers out to the other dancers.
Oh my god, they're so cute!
The references to Jane Austen in season 2 was a huge neon sign for the audience saying, we're telling a story about unfulfilled or unrequited love. While I'm not the biggest Jane Austen fan, and can't pick out every reference all that easily, that's a different video for a real Jane Austen fan to make, I can see the parallels, and I'm more so connected with a Romeo and Juliet style story, where for one reason or another, Crowley and Az cannot be together. Which also lends to the adorable friendship being so meaningful, because that's the only relationship they seem to be allowed to have. Speaking of what characters are allowing themselves to have, my point in the last video about Aziraphale was that he's not allowing himself to have any kind of lust towards Crowley, out of fear. Fear is the reason for this whole scene. Crowley has a fear of rejection and a fear of losing his best friend to the people who have been hurting them both the whole series. And Az fears largely come from that of disappointing heaven and losing his friend, but losing his friend in so many different various ways. He could lose his friend to hell, he could lose his friend to heaven, he could lose his friend because they realize that they're too different. And while I'm sure there are plenty more fear-based options for Aziraphale, my last point I'll make here is the big one for explaining my last video. He could lose his friend because bringing romance, and possibly lust, into the mix may not work out and cause a complete cutting of their cord. Who else here has had a crush on a friend and was absolutely terrified that turning the relationship romantic would end everything? I couldn't be speaking from personal experience. Oh no, that couldn't be it. How often have you seen a situation like this turn out well? How often have you seen a situation like this go absolutely poorly? Both Crowley and Aziraphale each have a 50-50 chance of the situation going the way they want, because the other is either going to say yes or no. I went straight to Az's side for this one because of his fear in knowing his own feelings, but also not wanting to face them. It's that whole concept of He liked the kiss, but he didn't like that he liked it. His fear in losing his best friend, as well as the fear of doing something Heaven would disapprove of, caused this shift in his behavior and how he was treating Crowley. His fear of sin drives a lot of his decisions, because he's doing whatever he can to have Heaven's approval and yet never truly getting that approval, which gives us our window into the toxic family dynamic.
Toxic!
Considering he was so terrified of going to hell for lying, any other sin would likely also cause him a great amount of fear. On the other hand, this is an angel who has sinned quite a bit. And for a more detailed explanation of the sins that he has experienced, I will reference this good bean right here who wrote a very detailed overview in my comments section on the last video. As for this video, to break this sins concept down a little more, we're going to have a quick ding session of what sins Aziraphale has experienced at least once in his existence from what we've seen in the show thus far. Most commonly listed in this order, the 7 deadly sins are pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Up first is pride. I'm gonna count that one. He's very, very proud of his books, records, and we can't forget that coat. Secondly, we've got greed. As I said in the last video, with his love of books and his records, hoarding all his goodies in his bookshop. That's a yes. Thirdly, lust. Oh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna say
Shades of grey.
it's kind of there, but very nuanced for Az himself. Any lust is more so shown by Crowley, and we all know that Crowley would want him to make that noise for so many more reasons than just food. I'm gonna say yes, because while we don't get an internal monologue or any kind of verbal confirmation from Aziraphale, the IRL heart eyes emoji is confirmation enough for me. Number 4 is envy. I'm gonna reference this commenter over here. Are you jealous, Angel? That's a yes. At 5, we've got gluttony. Oh boy, why is this even an argument on the internet? He ate a whole ox by himself in one night. That's gotta be gluttony, right? At 6, we have wrath. I'm gonna say yes for this one too, because he's a very grumpy boy when people try to hurt his sweet little demon. And finally, number 7. I'm gonna give a tentative no to this one. I personally don't see him as lazy. He's always doing something with his books, music, food, or traveling around with Crowley. If you have any kind of evidence for sloth, you can leave it down in the comments with a season and episode reference or a quote that would be helpful for those of us who are curious. Although I feel like he's always got something going on. While he has committed so many sins, he also likes to deny such acts, along with denying his friendship with Crowley. Repeatedly. Here comes the fear again. Fear causing him to deny just about everything. Even though I initially saw Az nearly saying, "I love you" at the end of the kiss, a commenter pointed out that he is likely saying, "I can't." Okay. Yes? You got me on that one. Excuse me while I go dump myself into a coffin and bawl my eyes out into a state of non-existence. I can't. You can't what, Aziraphale? You can't do this because you're so freaking afraid of just about everything?
Not good enough. I want a proper apology.
Losing heaven, losing your status, losing your angelicness, and most of all, losing Crowley. Well, guess what, buddy? That fear caused you to lose Crowley anyway. Good job. Yeah, those two need to have a healthy conversation and work it out calmly. But no, it's for the drama of the show. We all get to suffer. Hopefully that cleared up some confusion from my last video. If it did, please hit that like button so that I know y'all like my long-winded explanations and that I should make more because I have a third video of this Good Omens scene that I am working on. I'll be explaining if this kiss was consensual or not because my stance on that seemed to be confusing in the comments as well. My short answer, no. But you'll have to stick around for my next Good Omens video for my more lengthy answer. My previous vid was meant to bring those of us who are struggling with similar anxiety-based issues around the discomfort of this kiss together, and to be able to have a conversation about it in the comments. So a big thank you to those good beans for validating each other and being kind in the comments. Also, I most commonly make costume-related content, and my Halloween costumes this year are going to be Crowley and Aziraphale, so hit that subscribe button, as well as a ding, if you would like to see my Halloween costumes and other costume-related content. I love all of my amazing weirdos, and I am ever so grateful we have so many new weirdos joining us within the last month. Remember those subs, coms, thumbs, and ding! And welcome to the madness. If it did, please hit that like button so that I need water. This is a long script. Even with that, their relationship... If it did, please hit that button. Hit the button. Just hit the button. If you like the button.